Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to today's Advisicon Academy training. My name is Leslie Pfau. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Advisicon. We are a group of authors, teachers, consultants, and technologists offering training in Microsoft technologies, project management, and methodology. With attending any of our training sessions, we offer PDUs as we are a registered education provider with the Project Management Institute. At the close of today's session, I'll give you some instructions on how to claim your PDUs and how to contact Advisicon for any questions you may have. Now, before we get started, I'd like to go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's event. Please review the control panel that should be to the top right of your screen. The audience is muted during this session, so in order to ask questions, you'll need to submit them in the questions window of the control panel. This webinar will be recorded and uploaded on the Advisicon YouTube channel for those who could not attend today's session live. Please note that any questions or comments submitted will not display in the recording, nor will any of your personal information be shared. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's instructor, Advisicon's President and CEO, Tim Runcie. So without further ado, I'll hand this presentation over and we can get started.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leslie. Welcome, everyone. This is a fourth and final of our what we call Modern Project Monday, helping people understand about the new project management technologies that are rolling out and also how this new tool, Project for the Web, actually works. For those of you that know me, I encourage you to reach out anytime with questions, and even if you are watching this on a recording, a lot of times things have changed since then, so I encourage you just to reach out any given time, and we really like to be evangelists and supporting our community practice. Today, we are going to talk about the modern project fit in the PPM suite, and we're going to talk specifically around licensing. Now, I know most of you are so excited to learn about licensing. In fact, you probably sit down, grab a warm glass of milk, and then I'll start going over this, and it'll put you right to sleep. But what I want to do is show you kind of the mix and the match. And it's actually important because a lot of people don't understand how this works. And as you begin thinking about your use of project, program, and portfolio tools, what you want to make sure is you're finding the right blend that works for you, including leveraging Modern Project. So we'll talk about how you get it. We'll talk about the exact licensing options. I'm going to show you a couple blends, what I call mixing PPM tools together, as well as the key licensing offerings that go with those. So I think that'll be important because as you start thinking about your organization or whether you're using this just for you personally, or let's say you're a small 4-person shop, there are a lot of options that have zero cost, but yet you want to make sure you have the right tools to do that type of work. All right, so let's get into Project for the Web and the licensing components that come with this new product, as well as the Office 365 PPM suites. I do have a couple caveats, and I want to make sure I state this up front, is that number one, I don't own Microsoft. I don't control pricing. Even the Microsoft engineering teams do not control pricing. That's literally led up with the sales and marketing teams that actually go and do analysis, and in many cases, they change this every year. So if you're watching this 3 or 4 years later, chances are things may have changed a bit. You may also note that if you're a government entity or a nonprofit organization, you have different pricing schemas that are available. And of course, for those hearing that a nonprofit actually has 10 free Microsoft Office licenses available to them, I encourage you to jump on that program, take advantage of that, but that does not include Microsoft Project or Project for the Web. Those are kind of the other elements that sit outside of that. So those are things that you work with. Now, if you're also looking at licensing, in many cases, if you're a VAR or a LAR, I know what that stands for is value-added reseller or large area reseller, and some people refer to what's called CSP as you get into a cloud solution provider, which is the new official title of that, is that there's actually discounts that can be taken. So Advisicon is a cloud solution provider, so if you have any questions, we know exactly what it should be, what you should be paying, if you have any questions, and also making sure you're getting the right tool for the job. So let's look at some of the options that you have around that project suite. So it's not just taking Excel and working with Office or Office 365, but as we start looking at Microsoft To Do, or Azure DevOps, or Power BI, or Microsoft Teams, or Planner, or Project, these are all designed to work together as well as in some cases independently. And understanding what is the right fit from a licensing perspective is pretty important for you to take advantage of using some of those key elements. Remember in the past we had the project desktop, and then you could publish it into the enterprise and online environment. Then you could hook up Power BI. You can now actually add something called Roadmap, which comes with your licensing. But this first half of the screen really was around the old legacy style of project, which is still around, right? We call it Project Online, or PWA, Project Web App. And so the idea is you have some elements there. But this new version of Project for the Web is sitting out there, and it also has the availability of leveraging some of the same tools. So what we want to find is, if I wander from left to right or right to left, how do I get the right licensing? What do I actually put in place for people to work with? And of course, going back and looking at exactly what Planner gives you, what about Microsoft To Do, are also helpful. So with that in mind, we'll talk just a little bit about what is available today. And I actually just went and pulled this right off the web. And so if you were out and looking for the new project plans, or you logged in as an Office 365 administrator and you're trying to figure out what's the right tool for the job, it's important to understand which ones of these particular licenses help you. So the term Project Plan 1 really is referring to Project for the Web. And again, I want to make sure that's important, because there's actually different plans. And when they say plan, really we're talking about a single license and how they work. You'll notice that there's something called Project Plan 3, which is really an annual or a user commitment per month, which is your project desktop. Project Pro for Office 365 is what they referred to it in the past. And of course, you can get into the what's called the Premium Edition, which allows you to do portfolio management and some of the other enterprise tools. That's called Project Plan 5. Now, what's missing in this picture, and I think Microsoft will continue to define this, is something called Project Essentials. And Project Essentials is actually sitting under Plan 1. And when I say under, think of it to the left, is that it actually is for team members only. And it's actually less expensive than what you'll find in terms of Project Plan 1. But the idea is that team members will come in, they'll go to the SharePoint sites, they'll update their tasks, they can do timesheeting, they can view the project schedules, but inherently it's a little bit different. So I think there's some work that needs to happen in terms of where they're going to make that finally drop. But right now, these are the three advertised. They call them Plan 1, Plan 3, and Plan 5 in terms of the technologies. Now, what does that mean for you guys as you begin blending the technologies together that says, well, maybe I need a mixture of Azure boards, or perhaps I just want a Gantt chart, or I'm trying to do resource capacity planning, or even getting into cost modeling. If I want to look at all the elements, what's the right tool for the job? So thinking through that in terms of what are the modern fit that we have, we've got this blend or this balance of different tools. And what I'm going to do is actually bring them up so you can kind of see them, and we'll talk about kind of how they fit together. So first off, let's talk about if you were going to bundle the lowest cost mix. I feel like I'm a DJ here where I'm mixing and matching different types of tool solutions, where we say, hey, I'm using Microsoft Teams. Comes with Office 365, but by the way, I want to begin to extend and grow my use of project management. What's all the freebies that I can actually get? Well, if we think about starting with Microsoft Teams, let me just bring up my team window here, and I'll just drag this right over. Here I am. I can actually go in and I can say, hey, listen, while I'm working in my environment, I can switch between a planner board. I can actually have conversations. But here's Teams with some embedded applications inside of those. Now, again, some of these come free, which we'll talk about the planner board. Some of them, like Microsoft To Do, also come free. But the idea of being able to put elements in there that actually helps you track, report, and put information is helpful. So let's look at kind of that mix. So here's Teams. Let me bring over Microsoft Office 365 Planner. Here we go. And let's just take a peek at that. So a lot of times people say, well, while I'm working in here, I just need lightweight Kanban. I want to drag and drop. I want attachments. I want pictures. I want to have threaded checklists. I want to make sure stuff's getting done. And I go into my graphics. I have this. Again, Office 365 Planner comes for free. Now, what's important here is for those of you using the Home Edition, Planner is not available. So you have to be at least on what's called Plan 1 for Office 365, or you get into what they refer to as just a standard regular license. But for everyone else, it's there. If you're just kind of going and getting the Home Edition, that won't be. Again, this is a free component. So if I go back and continue with that set of licenses, we talk about Planner. This one here, Microsoft To Do, actually does not require Office 365. In fact, let me just open up Microsoft To Do. Microsoft To Do, you can actually download it, use it. It's a mobile tool, And what it will do is allow you to create checklists, tasks, and assign them to yourself. If you are in Office 365 and you're getting emails, you can actually flag your emails and have them create a series of tasks. You can actually expand and collapse, view those. You can highlight and prioritize them. You can even mark them off and getting done. But again, you don't need Office 365. In fact, you don't need anything. You can download and use this for free, again, to help you keep track of the assignments. And again, you might even create your own personal checklist. This is my running to the store list, which I talk about. Or I've got other tasks that are coming from Planner, which will also roll directly into Microsoft To Do. So again, still working across that free threshold that says, I can use To Do independently. I can use it where Teams and Outlook tasks will actually roll down and I have a nice checklist. And then maybe you want to even create Power BI reports. So if I decide to either embed a Power BI report into a Teams window, or if I just want to use the desktop version to actually have Power BI reports, you can actually come in and actually set these up and work with them independently. So I can actually run this report, download the desktop version, connect to my data, kind of like Excel, but I won't be able to share that. And that's kind of important because if you want to share this with other people and not necessarily send them a file, and you want them to come to a web page or a browser, you're going to need to talk about a higher level of license. But Power BI Desktop is free. You can download it tomorrow and certainly use that. So in thinking of that mix and match here, the low cost approach again now says, whoops, let me back up there, is project for the web. So if we think about P4W or project for the web, and I want to come in here and start looking at what are my tasks and how do I click and manage these, or if I want to actually come in and look at a roadmap of all of my initiatives across open projects or future projects, I'm always in a position, whether I'm starting from a home page, which this is Microsoft Project Home, where I can kind of pin and flag those. They can come out of the enterprise environment. All of this comes with the same licensing, which is great. So again, from a visualization perspective, I want to make sure I have good accountability and I get this piece with my licensing for project. Same goes for project for the web. If I'm running in and saying, let's actually drill directly into one of these new modern projects and whether I want to use the Kanban board, or perhaps I'm going to step back and just work in a spreadsheet grid of what's getting done, who's been assigned. This works very much like Teams. Now, remember, that is the licensing of about $10 a month. Now, again, that may vary based upon the type of organization that you are. So if you're using the environment here, you can actually use that. You can assign people and it works both with Project Online or independently, but about $10 a month. So literally you can be in Office 365 as an organization, leverage half the tools for free, and certainly manage some of that in terms of inviting people in for Project for the Web. Now that's what I call the low cost mix, and it's available. Next, we kind of take that up a notch. And of course, I still think that Planner has an important role, and so does Microsoft To Do. So remember, for Microsoft To Do, which is kind of our end state checklist, which I can do on my phone, maybe you're in Outlook and you're actually working on some of your tasks. You actually have some of the elements that are happening, things that you're working on. So if I come over here and I bring my Outlook inbox in and I jump down to my overall tasks, whoops, that's my calendar. It'll tell us I'm supposed to be working in a webinar. There we go. Now I can go through and I can see this is my checklist. Well, I also have these things rolling in here. And remember that running with store list? If you even look closely here, I've got that pizza symbol still sitting there. So it allows you to kind of flag and bring that together out of your Office environment directly into your tasks. Now, again, looking at some of the connectedness of that licensing, we go back to using Project and say, well, we've got To Do, we've got Power BI. I certainly could use Project for the Web. However, now maybe what I need to do is start sharing my dashboards, or perhaps I want people to come in and start interacting with some of that. So remember, it's a per user charge that Microsoft comes up with, and it's about $9.99 that says if you would like to go and actually take some of these reports and actually create interactive dashboards for other people to click on and view, or if you want to work with that, you can select these. You'll actually be able to leverage all of the reports that we have here, including our overall task overview, our resource assignment overview. You're going to need to spend about $9.99 a month, and roughly you can even get this in a 60-day trial if you want to play around with that. So as you begin to say, look, I'm managing my tasks, we're doing pretty good here. I've got my Project for the Web data, I'm actually going to read that. I can still create reports, but maybe I want to start distributing out the information versus having to build a report every week, ship it into somebody in PowerPoint. We now are in a place where we can kind of manage our visuals. We can do this interactively and work with any one of those. So again, next tier up in terms of our licensing is really our ability to leverage, those pieces that we see here in terms of sharing the information, still leveraging kind of the free options. You can play with it as a desktop, but now we want to look at more an overall mix. Now remember, when we cross over into what we call the enterprise, the full enterprise, it doesn't mean that you won't still use Planner or To-Do, or even maybe you'll play around with desktop reports. But if you want to mix both Project for the Web and you're thinking about, I'm also wanting to use the Project Online, which has the full resource forecasting, cost modeling, it has the portfolio analyzer with it, then you're going to look at three different options. One is, perhaps I need my project managers to use Microsoft Project Schedules that are a little bit more beefy or able to work with that, and that's called Plan 3. Roughly, if we go back to our pricing model, this is where we talked about the retail price is $30 a month. Again, that could change. You might have discounts. If you're a nonprofit, you get that for a lot less. If you're a government entity, etc. Now, you will also probably would need one premium, which usually is the administrator, but if you're doing portfolio management, you may want to elect it to go up one tier into what's called Plan 5 for portfolio managers. There's usually not a lot, but that's that $55 a month option. And then for the essentials, which still hasn't been cataloged into a plan yet, is where I have a team member. I see these range anywhere from $3 to $7 per user based upon the type of discounts, or if you're working with a cloud solution provider, they actually can extend those out to you. I know that when customers come to us for licensing, a lot of times what we do is go, in some cases we'll pass it at barely any markup at all or zero markup, because the idea is that there's, at $6 a user, there's not a lot that you can have. We want people to use those technologies. So if you feel like you're getting gouged, just let us know. We can tell you what the actual license costs are in terms of visibility. Now, with that in mind, when I talk about the portfolio analyzer and using the enterprise version of Project, that just means that we are going to be able to step over and build schedules, track these, create graphical indicators. We'll be able to step into literally having people come in and view and edit or modify our projects. But remember, that's a different environment than for Project for the Web. Project for the Web says, hey, I can invite people in. In fact, I can have multiple people working simultaneously in our schedules. So this is going to be the future of Project, and as it continues to add more and more flexibility or capabilities, we'll be able to manage these. We'll be able to connect or disconnect. We can actually work with the details around these. We can even actually go into, like you do with Teams, and set your targets, your predecessors, or add your dependencies. And if you're an Agile person, of course, you're able to work in that Kanban board. The nice part about that is Power BI bridges both of those environments for you. So you can actually create reports that look at both environments. Now, since we're talking about Power BI, there's a new visual here. I thought I'd just show it real quick. For those who maybe remember the old Power Pivot, our ability to actually say, I want to create reports, but I want to drill into the details. Well, now we actually have what's called a custom visual here in terms of our new reporting visual, where I can say, show me a project manager, and I want to get a breakdown of effort or hours or cost or projects. And so it allows you to kind of click and select these. You can visualize those, but you have new types of views that are coming up on an ongoing basis. And hence this, again, this data that we're looking at right now is actually looking at our project or our project information coming from Project for the Web. So again, lots of things to play with, lots of things to work with, and hence the reason potentially to think about, well, maybe I want to create a Power BI dashboard and I'll share it with others, or at least from the desktop perspective, I can do my analytics. So if we go back to our overall picture, having the ability to do that resource cost and modeling, forecasting, or marrying those together, we really get into a plan that actually has different options. And what's nice about this is that your organization can actually work in one or the other or all of these together. It just depends on which group. So for example, I might have a marketing or accounting group that just needs lightweight Project for the Web, P4W, just saying, hey, look, modern project's good enough for us. The rest of those deep project managers might be working and got their PMP and they're digging deeper in the portfolio side. We can bridge these together. And leveraging Planner and To-Do and Desktop and some of the other elements that are going to come out, I think you're going to be pretty excited. Now, continuing that journey is if we're looking at our options and what we're able to work with, it's important for us to be able to make sure that we've got the right fit for the job. So in terms of evaluating this, remember, Project for the Web cost is slightly more than what a team member, what we call the project essentials are. Now, I've had some people actually reach out with questions and saying, hey, look, I'm looking at other tools that are out there. And while Advisicon looks at technology very generically, meaning that we're tool agnostic, a lot of times what we want to do is find the right fit for the job. So whether you're looking at a Monday.com, or you're looking at Smartsheet and the strengths and weaknesses and doing bake-offs, a lot of times it's a short conversation. But when we start comparing pricing between other tools, typically when I find that you're looking at some of these other types of tools, they're charging the same price that Microsoft is for their professional or their premium edition, which could be anywhere from $30 to $55 a month. And again, remember, those numbers vary based upon what type of organization you are and what discounts you're able to actually get. But it's important to understand that if you're going to pay for that, maybe what you don't need is all that heaviness. What you still need is the lightness. And this is why Microsoft target Project for the Web to let people get in and out pretty quickly and easily. Again, Microsoft To Do requires nothing and is free. That means you don't even have to be in Office 365. Of course, Planner itself, so remember good old Planner, comes with Office 365. Unless you're just a home user and you'd like to just kind of jump in, you're going to have to upgrade to at least the what we call the E1 plan here. But inherently is you can drag and drop these activities, you can move them around. You can even go in and say, you know what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at the files behind here. I'd like to see that more in a SharePoint structure. Or, hey, give me some charts and graphs that organizes not just this plan, but maybe shows all of my work across all of those. Again, free to people to use. I think from the last count, there's 159 million people using this. And I love it because they embed it right inside of Teams, which also comes with Project. So while I'm able to embed Power BI, or if I want to drop in a full-blown project site in here, or if I want to pull in the information from a planner board, Teams becomes kind of your conduit to share that information. But from a licensing perspective, what you want to do is figure out who needs to see what's the right version of information that they work with. All right, continuing on with our kind of our summary here in terms of what we want to look at in terms of our licensing is that, again, thinking that licensing and project are subject to change. This will change typically once a year with Microsoft, but again, it may be that there's a difference. We did have some questions surface around nonprofits, and if you aren't aware of that, or if you work with a nonprofit, I encourage you to let them know. But there's 10 free Microsoft Office licenses for them. That does not include Planner, right? So the idea is, or not Planner, but Project for the Web. So there are certain things like Visio or Project that you'll have to do something different. But the idea is that they don't actually have to pay for those 10 free offices, and that actually helps very small nonprofits grow. Again, finding the right balance and blend sometimes is a matter of thinking about what pain points you're solving. So in many cases, we'll do a quick call with people and just kind of answer the questions, kind of say, here's a balance or a mix. In fact, I've had an organization last week call and they were buying all Project Premium licenses. And while Microsoft would love to sell the most expensive license, what they really found is that the 40 people that they were looking for, they needed one instead of 40, and they needed just a few PMs. The rest were either an essential or they could use the Project for the Web to make that work. So what's exciting is this will continue to grow. There will be more tools that will emerge as you begin working. But again, revisiting back some of those, let me show you a quick punch list here. I'm going to bring up a Word document, and I will blow this up a little bit bigger so you guys can see that. But again, if you're thinking about Project Plan 1, 3, or 5, this is kind of the retail version. And then in alignment with what you get, it's important to understand that, hey, listen, we still get Project Home even if you're on Project for the Web, as you did with the original Project Online. You get the grid views, you get the Kanban views that you're able to work with. You've got a nice timeline, and you notice that this Project for the Web is actually hanging tough all the way across the board with some of the larger enterprise tools that we have. And they can mix and match collaboration, communication. Now, from a co-authoring perspective, this Project for the Web is where we're going to find that. And if we come over and say, I want to co-author in either Project Professional or Project Online, we won't be able to do that there, but that doesn't mean our reports can't pull those things together. Again, if you're looking at scheduling or Gantt charts, all three of these tools have those. Some of them are very simplistic and easy to set up. And of course, all of the project technologies allow you to use Power BI to surface and create reports or visuals. And what I love about that is you can embed those, say, for example, in Microsoft Teams. Now, timesheets, you're not going to be able to timesheet in Modern Project. Really, this is designed for the Enterprise Edition. And of course, managing resources, if you really need to get into figuring out what is your capacity to the overall demand, then using Project for the Web is probably not the right tool for you, and you want to take a step up into basically Plan 3 or Plan 5, which is Project Desktop, but using the Enterprise Edition because it gives you a single resource pool. It doesn't mean that you couldn't let certain groups within your organization use Modern Project or Project for the Web. What it means is that you can use Power BI to bridge both and visualize those. Again, as we continue looking through there, the desktop client, basically we think about what you're able to work with. Again, now we're into the portfolio management selection, and you can see as you get into the bigger tools, all of those essentially are set aside for that project online experience. Okay, well, I hope this was helpful. Again, I think this is just part of us trying to make sure people understand kind of the mix or the match, how you can put those together. There are quite a few free tools. If you think about the crawl, walk, run stage of your culture, it's helpful. Don't forget about our webinar Wednesdays that we do every other Wednesday, half a PDU available. But again, if you have questions, we'd love to help people find the right mix and blending. And of course, we teach as a passion. So Leslie, why don't I hand it back to you, and I'll let you kind of wrap it up for us today.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We welcome your questions and feedback, and for more information, you can email us at contact@advisicon.com. Once you exit today's webinar, you'll receive a survey on the presentation. You will need to complete and submit the survey to receive your PDUs. From there, you'll receive a follow-up email within 2 business days with your PDU information. If you're watching this recording on YouTube or another social media platform, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. On behalf of Advisicon, Tim, and myself, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you participate in future webinars. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks now.